Good day. We are going to go through an example of classification of soil. We've seen this table before, and we're going to look at soil A and soil C as an example. In the process, we are going to make use of the unified soil classification system, which look like this. And this table is broken up into two parts, for coarse-grained material and fine-grained materials. So first of all, when you look at the soil composition, you have to determine what is, if it's coarse-grained or fine-grained, and that will then help you to determine which part of the table you will utilize. So if we look at the soil table, for soil A, the gravel is 31% and the sand is 66%. Now normally I would stop and ask, where do I get the 66% from? But if you look at the table again of the soil composition and you remember the classification or groupings we said, you will find that 69% of the material passes through the sieve that define the upper limit of sand, but there is 3% of material that goes through the sieve that determines the upper limit for silt, and therefore it's 69% minus 3%. So the silt is 3%, and in this particular case there is 0% clay. So if we look at this, we will find therefore that 97% is coarse and only 3% is fine. So this is a coarse material, and therefore we will be using the top part of the USCS table. Secondly, which is more dominant, the gravel or the sand, and in this case the sand is more dominant. What is the percentage of fine fraction? And it's 3%. This means that it will classify either as SW, a well-graded sand, or SP, poorly graded sand. So if we calculate D60, D30 and D10 as per the definitions on the distribution curve to determine CU, which is D60 over D10, which gives us a value of 7.78, and CZ is defined as D30 squared divided by D60 minus D10, and that gives us a value of 0.992. If you look at the criteria then, CU satisfies, but CZ is less than 1, therefore it's an SP, poorly graded sand, or a gravelly sand with little or no fines. And that is how you classify a soil, starting with the table of sieve sizes and then using the unified soil classification system. If we go back then to the table and we start looking at soil C, then this is what we will get. The gravel is 0%, the sand is 27%, the silt is 60%, and the clay is 13%. So the coarse fraction is 27% and the fine fraction 73%. So it is a fine grain soil where the fine fraction is more than 50%. The liquid limit is less than 50. In this particular case, it is 32. So it will classify either as ML, CL, or OL on the plasticity chart. If it's above the A line, it's a clay, and if it's below the A line, it is a silt. In this particular case, the IP or PI is 6, and the liquid limit is 32. So it classifies either as ML or OL. ML has a slight less than 3 IP or plasticity index, which is not true for soil C, and OL has a low, about 6 IP, which is more accurate for soil C. So in this particular case, the soil will classify as an organic silt or organic silty clay of low plasticity. Thank you very much.